started?
Yeah.
Okay, so here, first person that we're going to be debriefing today is Maureen. I'll be the facilitator for this meeting. So I'd like to just quickly go over the norms for the group and get us started. So we all agree that we're going to start and end on time, watch the clock, we'll be respectful to each other, we'll stay on task, and agree to disagree, and follow the procedure and protocol of the meetings that we've agreed upon. Okay? So, for the first 5 minutes, we're going to ask Maureen to set the context for the lesson and describe what lesson is being taught, age level, grade, what part of the day the lesson took place, unusual circumstances, what the lesson was videotaped on, what was going on during the lesson, and how this lesson connects with the COS in 5 minutes.
Excuse me. Okay. This is a 7th grade class, heterogeneously mixed. The kids are 12 and 13 years old. It was taped second block of the day, so from 8:19 to 9:06. This was the second day I had been working on an introduction to claim evidence reasoning. And I had taped the first day, and then it didn't download properly, so I totally lost those videos. So it's, but what I had done on the first day was introduce them to a wind-up toy and an avocado seed. I've learned through experience that the kids come to me not knowing a lot about seeds. They don't really know if they're alive or not. So we were making the claim. We were asking the question: is the avocado seed alive? Is the wind-up toy alive? And then making the claim that it was either alive or they were not alive. Scaffolding was important because these kids are very, very low on the continuum of argument. It's never been presented to them before, to present in a logical way. So I felt scaffolding the lesson was really important. So for that first day, they took observations of the wind-up toy and the seed. And then for the videotape that you all got to see, it was actually the second day of the lesson, where we were looking at the objectives of identifying and explaining characteristics and needs of living things. They were citing evidence that something is alive or not alive, and looking at the essential question: what does it mean to be alive? I had provided them with a short reading on seeds, and that was the first few minutes of the video that you saw them sitting and reading while I checked the homework. To give them some background information, I was hoping that they would clue into words like seeds are dormant, and when you're dormant, you have the potential for life, but you're not showing the active signs of living things. I forget what I'm supposed to talk about next. So the only unusual thing that really happened was that the first day of the lesson didn't transfer, so that's lost. It connects to our course of study because it is the introductory phase of learning how to cite evidence to present scientific argument.
Thank you. And then have 1 minute for Maureen to restate the questions from the pre-observation form that you filled out about your lesson.
Okay, I'm hoping that you will talk about were the students in each pair actively engaged? Were they participating equally? Were both the written and verbal directions clear? Do the focus questions provide the students with the opportunity to demonstrate what they learned? And is there a good balance between thought-provoking questions and answers without providing too much information? One of my struggles with CER is not correcting them when they're wrong. I just have to really concentrate to hold back because that's not my style. I like to correct them when they have a misconception.
Okay, so we're gonna take 10 to 15 minutes. We'll start with the warm feedback. Alright,
I can start. Did you want me to go through all my one?
we'll just go
take one.
One at a
and
time?
go around.
Okay. What I thought went really well is I really feel like you have really great norms established for class. They walked right in, they grabbed the do now, they went right to work. It shows that you have a good good practices established, and the kids know the expectations of your class. And I thought it was really great. They went right to work. Like, whoa, that was awesome.
I like how you began class by stating the objectives and reviewing the prior day's topic, just to kind of make that connection from the learning from yesterday.
I thought this was a really good introductory lesson for, and you mentioned it was introductory, but I think by the end of it, they were able to understand the idea, or beginning to understand the idea of the claims, evidence, and reason and peace. Even though, as you said, it was just the beginning of it, then they were able to write claim, support with evidence, and they were beginning to show them signs of the reasoning aspect of it.
I thought it was really great that they were reading an article while you were checking homework that related to the later part of the lesson.
I also, I thought that you explained the steps really well. You were really explicit in what they were doing, and what the expectation was, and how you kind of told them that it was something new that you were doing, and you explained to them how to follow the steps of the process.
I liked how at the end of the lesson you asked them to reflect about the activity, what was the hardest part, what was the easiest, and really have a discussion about it.
I thought there was a lot of cooperative learning observed in the lesson where the students, it seemed like there was an equal exchange between the students in the discussion. It wasn't just like one student taking the group. They all seemed to have an equal say and be appreciative of each other's ideas and respectful of each other's ideas, which is good.
At one point in your introduction, you asked them to reword Brooke's question, and you had really good wait time while you gave them a chance to think and respond. Like, there were, moments of silence, and you didn't rush through it. You just waited long and gave them, I think 4 more people answered after that.
I liked how when you put them into groups, or you told them to get into groups, that they could choose their own claim, but they could share the research together. So I thought that was really neat. So they could, do the work together, the hard stuff, and then they could still have their own opinions, and they could possibly revisit that later to see, which one had, which student or which group member had a better claim or stronger claim. So I really like that you left that open.
I liked how your directions were, everything was very specific. I thought it was very detailed and it was easy to understand. I like how you chunked everything out and really explained everything to them.
We going to book it?
No, okay, we're good, thank you.
I liked how you reinforced that it was okay to disagree with the original claim, and that you should feel comfortable about making, different claims from your partner. You both didn't have to necessarily agree.
You gave them additional resources to use and reminded them to use those resources.
Knowing you the way I do, I really thought it was really great that you just let them go. You let them think for themselves. You let them work on their own. I know that's hard for you, not to guide them as much. You were there as a guide, but you weren't showing them everything. And I like seeing them work on their own. I thought that was really neat.
I think I have everything that.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you said that, you weren't able to pull on, to include the piece about the toy, and you focused on the avocado seed, but I thought that was a good thing. Considering their first experiences, it really kind of helped to focus them on one thing, and rather than branching off and with a whole different kind of idea with the toy is so different than the avocado. Time-wise, I always overlap. I'm running out of time. I think that really was a good thing. It was a good thing.
at one point, and this might be what Len was saying, but at one point, someone asked a question and you answered with more questions instead of just giving them the direct answer. So you asked them where they got the evidence, and then if they got it from the book, what does that mean? Like, instead of just answering their question and giving them an answer, you kind of made them think about it.
I liked that the students were like really super focused and well behaved, and when you moved from from the front area to the back to the lab area, you still kept them and they were still engaged throughout the lesson, you know, from transferring from front to back.
I liked how you had focus questions in addition to the goals, because sometimes I think the kids understand focus questions more than they understand our standards and goals and things like that. So, I liked how you added that.
I thought that you just had good check-ins with them, like you checked in with all the groups, you gave them time check-ins, you reminded them to back up evidence with reasoning, so you were, constantly kind of guiding them through the class.
I liked that for your first CER you chose the concepts living, non-living, because in a way it's kind of a simple concept. It's something that they've done before. It's definitely rife with misconceptions, but I thought it was a good concept for you to kind of do your first CER with, because you were able to keep it simple. So you were able to focus and have the students focus on the process and not worry so much about the content.
I also liked the topic because you could really look at both sides and you could see how kids would really think that that's not a living, like you could really approach that argument from both sides with that seed. So that was like a good one to sort of open it up and have a nice discussion on. Good? Okay. So we're gonna move on to the cool feedback. We have about 8 more minutes to go.
Okay, so just some potential areas to explore. Maybe next time you frame the CER, describe it in relation to what they're doing in social studies. In social studies, they're doing the data-based or detail-based questions. I don't even know, it's the DBQs. And I know they've been working on them all year, so it's a nice little connection, because they're able to see that the skills that they're doing in social studies transfer to science. And also, they're also working on argumentation in social studies right now. So to try to do a little crossover, although their mnemonic device is different and the wording is different, it's nice to make that connection, so then they're like, oh, okay, I do this in social studies. And that might have been a little bit easier for them to kind of jump into it.
I wish I could hear more of the student observations. I was wondering about that, but I was like, I wanted to really hear what they were saying to each other, and because I felt like you could tell that they were engaged and having good conversations.
And this is probably me just because I didn't have the paper in front of me at the time, but maybe if you had it posted up on the board or like a PowerPoint or something, so that just because it's new to them, the CER steps, and then we could go back and refer to it, especially for the kids who tend to be a little less focused during class. It may help them kind of get organized in their thoughts. But then again, I didn't have it in front of me, so I just.
I wondered if you could have used more time at the end to reflect, kind of on what they did. It's always a struggle, especially I think you guys have bells, which we don't have.
Yes.
So when the bell rang, I was like, oh, and that's stressful.
Perhaps something to consider would be,
Just checking.
next time you do the do now, just to mix it up, maybe have the students do reading in pairs, and maybe they can summarize the article really quick to a larger group.
I actually had something similar about that. I was interested in what the reading, if they all had this, if they had different readings, how that would benefit, and how you could kind of tie that in and have them discuss more.
Yeah, mine just the same thing, maybe for a future lesson to have the kids share out so that we could have heard what they, but, you know, time constraints.
I wondered if there's a right answer to the question, like are seeds living, and then how do you handle questions that do have a right answer with CER? Do you know what I mean? Because you don't want to really be encouraging kids to like reason the wrong thing. Like, at what point do you step in and correct them? And you said that that's a struggle for you to not do that. So that was really like something that you were proud of. But I just wondered, like, for me, for a group, for everyone, like, how do you do this with questions that there are kind of right answers to?
Just another suggestion. You did, you know, the wind up toy and the seed, which were a great way to begin, but maybe next time give them more things to choose from. You know, some kids think fire is alive, they could choose fire, or picture of fire, not lighting fire, or other items, that might be, like some kids might have thought a seed is living, or for whatever reason, so maybe other items to choose from, that could be fun, a little tactile too.
We did reflection in our vertical group. So one of the things that I thought is, especially because of the bell ringing, wouldn't it have been nice to have an individual reflection so that they had gone home and had to continue some thought about it or write about it, and then revisit that in the beginning of class the next time, maybe just to get their mind off it, go home and revisit it once they're home, and they have some different thoughts.
Maybe if for kids that might struggle a little bit in the future when you do CER, provide them with a claim beforehand, or provide them with a question beforehand if they have any difficulty. Because you said, I think it was, you know, is it living or is this alive, or, you know, you had them frame their own question. For some students, it might benefit if they just already have the question, so then they don't have to think about that and worry themselves about, oh God, what's my question? And then they have all these other steps afterwards.
Good?
Yep. Good.
Okay. All right, so we're moving on to the next one where we can ask Maureen any clarifying questions about the lesson, and Maureen may answer during this time. I just have it flew out of my head.
I have a question. So in the beginning of class, when you were going around the clipboard, you were checking homework?
I was checking homework.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay. And you were taking attendance?
I had taken attendance before I started checking the homework.
Okay, okay.
Oh yeah, mine is a similar question too, because there were kids that were coming up and I don't know if they were getting something or coming up, but I didn't know what they were, like right when they first came in, and I don't know if they were checking in with you or if they were getting something. I didn't know what.
As they walk in, there's I call it the do now table. That's where they had to pick up their reading, and so that then they would take it to their seat.
Oh, okay.
So the kids that forgot their pencil came up to get a pencil. The kids that forgot their highlighter came up to get a highlighter.
That's it. Okay.
Sorry. Okay, the idea of dormancy we got stuck on when we were doing living and non-living things. And dead, is it dead? Well, it was once living. What does that mean? You know what I mean? It was once living. Did you have any issues around like trying to get over that idea of dormancy and that what does that actually mean? Not even using it as a word, but it was, you know what I mean? It's like living, but it's not following all those characteristics right now, but it will follow those, you know what I mean? Like we got stuck on that when we were doing it.
They got stuck on it, and this was just not in the class I taped. I found that they didn't go back and use the research piece or the article that I provided with them that they had just read. They didn't go back and use it to help say, okay, well, even though this avocado seed, you can look at it and it's not growing and it's not reproducing right now. They totally